Here is what is killing science and ushering in the age of scientism, which, to be honest, it's not we are already in the age of scientism. It's that scientists, who once were called scientists, but since they have failed to do science and have begun to only engage in the practice of scientism,
bitch, where?
They no longer get to bear the title of scientist. You're not my boss. From now on, also retroactively, I will only call them scientists. Unless they actually start practicing real science, in which case they get to call themselves scientists again. What scientists are failing to do that a proper scientist does is generate alternative models for any observation. So you have an observation, you collect your data, you analyze it, and then before you have your conclusion, you have to interpret the data. And when you interpret the data, you can use different assumptions, different models, and the different models have different assumptions that underlie their differences, and so then the different models will lead to different conclusions, and all of that is based on how you choose to interpret results and what theories you bring to bear. And if you're a real scientist, then you say, here is the conclusion when we interpret the data using this model, and here's an alternative conclusion based on a different model that's equally valid. And that way, you give your readers not just the choice of which conclusion they prefer, knowing that their choice is personal preference. It's not that one is necessarily more valid or more true or more accurate. It's just one of them supports the beliefs that you hold on to only because it suits your whimsy, not because it's more true. And when you do that, you allow science to go further, faster, because rather than say, here's one conclusion based on this one model, and it's the only conclusion, and so then everyone is then having to take that one conclusion and run with it, and so you end up narrowing where science can go and what topics it can explore, because you're only allowing findings and conclusions that fit that one paradigm. Whereas when you acknowledge that there are alternative, and not just acknowledge them by saying, oh yes, I'm sure that there are other alternative conclusions. No, when you specifically state them in your published paper and you say, this could be our conclusion from our data, but this other conclusion is equally valid, and here it is. And why not throw in a third? After a glass of wine, before a glass of wine, with a glass of wine, doesn't matter. Throw in a third if you're to set yourself apart as a smarter scientist.